Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Case against former Haitian senator and family adjourned to next Thursday. The case against former Haitian senator John Jewel Joseph, his wife and two children for illegal entry into Jamaica has been adjourned until next Thursday, March 10, to facilitate an interview with the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency (PICA) relating to their application for refugee status. The family was charged with illegal entry into the island after they allegedly fled Haiti after Joseph was linked to the assassination of President Jovenel Moise. A representative from PICA was present in court Thursday, March 3rd, indicating that while the immigration agency received the application for Joseph's wife and children, 38-year-old Idom, 18-year-old and 9-year-old child, they have not done the interview portion of the application process. We have attempted to have the process expedited, Attorney at Law for the family, Donahue Martin, told the court, noting that the results of the application for refugee status should not take more than a month given the sensitive nature of the case. At the same time, Martin reiterated that the wife was fearful that their lives would be taken if they returned to Haiti. She had a gun pointed in her face, Martin said, speaking of an alleged incident which happened to his wife while she was in her homeland. However, due to the allegations being brought against Joseph by the Haitian authorities, he is not eligible to apply for asylum in Jamaica. Reporters understand that Joseph arrived in the island illegally by boat in December last year, along with his family members, and he is one of three key suspects who were being hunted in relation to the July 2021 assassination of former Haitian President Moise. The Haitian president was killed on July 7 when a hit team invaded the presidential residency and shot him. His wife Martine was wounded but survived. Judicial police have questioned at least 21 presidential guards who were present on the fatal night. Most wanted among 25 men held in Jarrett Lane. Two men the police describe as influential violence producers were among 25 nabbed by the Joint Anti-Gang Task Force during a major operation on Jarrett Lane area of Mountain View Avenue in Kingston. One of the alleged violent producers has been identified as Richard Higgins, otherwise called Bob. He has been listed among Jamaica's most wanted. The other man is considered a person of interest in relation to several crimes in the area. The police forces are encouraging citizens to report illegal activities in their communities. Suspected scammer charged in Westmoreland. A suspected lottery scammer has been charged following his arrest in a pre-dawn operation in Whitehouse, Westmoreland on Thursday. Reports are that between the hours of 4 a.m. and 8 a.m., lawmen from the lottery scam task force searched the suspect's house. The police say they also did an on-site examination of his cellular phone and found several files with names, addresses, telephone numbers, and banking information of people residing overseas. He was arrested and has since been charged with possession of identity information and possession of access device. He has been identified as 21-year-old Tafari Pinnock, otherwise called Tuffy, of Rotown Whitehouse in Westmoreland. Residents disarms robber, hands over firearm to police. A Mossberg shotgun with 4 12-gauge cartridges was handed over to the police in Westmoreland on Wednesday. Reports from the Savannah Lamar police are that about 10:45 p.m., an unknown assailant attempted to rob a resident on the Culloden Main Road in the parish. The resident, however, disarmed the would-be robber and summoned the police. On their arrival, the firearm and the ammunition were handed over to the cops. Janet Jackson, Nicki Minaj, Kevin Hart on top 4 Essence. Janet Jackson, Kevin Hart and Nicki Minaj are among the headliners announced Thursday for this summer's Essence Festival of Culture, which returns to New Orleans after a 2-year hiatus brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. Others stopped to entertain June 30 through July 3rd included New Edition, the Izzy Brothers, Jasmine Sullivan, Summer Walker, The Roots and Friends, and The Nice and Friends, Essence Communication Incorporation said in a news release. Additional talent and details will be announced later. We are excited to welcome the family back live to New Orleans and thrilled to connect with more of our family through digital experiences, Essence CEO Caroline Wagon stated in the announcement. In addition to the night of concerts inside the Superdome, the festival will include programming on networking, finance, career wellness, fashion beauty, and more at the Ernest N. Mortal Convention Center and other entertainment in venues citywide. Launched in 1995 to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Essence magazine, the festival has evolved into the world's largest celebration of Black women, culture, and communities, convening more than 530,000 people annually over the July 4th weekend in New Orleans, the company statement said. The festival, with the 2022 theme, It's the Black Joy for Me, plans to expand its digital programming, live streaming, select underground activities, as well as creating new digital-only content and experiences, the company added. And even though some COVID-19 restrictions have been eased, proof of vaccination is required to participate in the festival events, organizers stated. No need to panic. Energy Minister Darrell Valls has given assurances that the war in Eastern Europe is not expected to interrupt energy supplies to the island, even though he can do little about prices without first consulting with the Cabinet and the Ministry of Finance. Valls, who was speaking during a Thursday meeting at Parliament's Standing Finance Committee, said the island has adequate supply of fuel and is cutting new deals to secure more supplies for the island. Jamaica has 3 to 4 weeks reserve supply of finished products and 6 weeks of crude, he said in prepared notes ahead of questions from his parliamentarian colleagues. The situation is being actively monitored and our supply chain is not in jeopardy, he added. Jamaica currently sources both crude oil and finished products from Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, and Barbados. In the case of Barbados, the country gets about 60,000 barrels of oil every 2 months. These are delivered on fixed-term contract up to a year. I want to categorically state to the people of Jamaica today that we have storage capacity both in Jamaica and outside of Jamaica, which is more than adequate for the island. He said with those two sources, Jamaica is secured in terms of fuel arrangements. What we cannot predict, obviously, is prices. But based on the contracts we have, supply is there, and based on funds available to purchase, we do have that as a country, he stated. Bank of Jamaica data show that at the end of January, Jamaica had US $3.5 billion in reserves, which could be tapped in if necessary to help purchase oil. At the same time, the latest data presented so far by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica showed oil improved over the January to October period of 2021 were valued at over US $1.2 billion. That was up 70% from the prior year, which was most impacted by COVID-19-induced economic slowdown than 2021. Oil accounts for a quarter of Jamaica's imports. However, the cost of each barrel of oil is getting more expensive. U.S. oil prices briefly spiked on Thursday to their highest level in nearly 14 years. As concerns about disruptions to Russia's supply continue, Russia is the world's third largest oil producer behind the United States and Saudi Arabia. In January 2022, Russia's total oil production was 11.3 million barrels per day. By comparison, U.S. total oil production was 17.6 million barrels per day, while Saudi Arabia produced 12 million barrels per day. However, Russia is the world's largest exporter of oil to global markets and the second largest crude oil exporter behind Saudi Arabia. In December 2021, it exported 7.8 million barrels per day, mostly to Europe. Despite concerns, the global market is yet to see a loss of Russian oil supply. That as Russia's oil and gas sectors have been spared the sanction levied on most of the country's economy, as the West, led by the United States, seek to squeeze its US $1.6 trillion economy, the world's 11th largest economy and 5th largest in Europe. Still, as concerns linger, U.S. crude jumped as much as 5.4% to $116.57 a barrel early Thursday, the highest rate since September 22, 2008. A week earlier, Leonard Martin's Brothers collapsed. However, by the end of trading on Thursday, U.S. crude was selling for 110.75 cents a barrel after retrieving from its intraday high. On the other hand, Brent crude, the world benchmark, flirted with 120 a barrel Thursday morning. Brent hit an intraday high and $119.84 a barrel, the highest since May 2012. The oil contract back off and in recent trading was just slightly. Despite the pullback from the intraday highs, Oil remains up to 20% since just before Russia invaded Ukraine last week. Philip Paulwell, opposition spokesman on energy, calling the recent increases in oil prices an emergency situation, pressed pause during the Standing Finance Committee meeting on whether the government would be willing to step in to help reduce the burden on consumers and enterprises. I remember in my time as energy minister, during the period of one hurricane, we had to suspend the prices arranging briefly to accommodate the emergency situation. Will the government be prepared to contemplate that now, as we have seen every week record price levels in this area, records much higher than crisis of 70s and the crisis of the 80s, and it is happening every week? Will the government be prepared to contemplate an easing of that, and especially with the forecast of profit of $2.4 billion for Petrojam this year? Paulwell asked. Pump prices in Jamaica are at record levels. They are up by 10.5% since the start of the year, and $50 or 37% higher than a year ago. Vols would not have been drawn to make a commitment off the cuff, replied. That obviously would be a matter that would have to be discussed and considered both by the Cabinet and Minister of Finance consultations. Obviously, in any scenario like this, it may require a subsidy, and therefore, obviously, based on all that's happening with the pandemic and now this war in Europe, it wouldn't be something we couldn't do without deeper consultation and review, but I take your suggestion on board. Voss said the decision has fiscal concentrations which he could not commit to in Parliament. There is no need to panic as it relates to our supplies, and we will be monitoring our prices as things unfold, he continued. He added, the country is getting more options and better options for fuel supplies, pointing to a recent trip by officials from the Energy Ministry, Petrojam, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in Nigeria, in which a memorandum of understanding was signed covering crude oil supply arrangements with Nigeria and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation in oil and gas exploration, technical support in optimizing our local refinery operations, and last but not least, liquefied natural gas from Nigeria and the setting up of an LNG tank farm. He said as the country looks to ramp up its energy security, requests for a proposal will be invited for the new renewable energy capacity to ensure the target of having 50% of electricity generated for renewable by 2030 is met. And in the area of oil exploration, which is showing good prospects, according to Paulwell, Voss said the team at United Oil and Gas requested and got a 2-year extension to January 2024 to raise capital to drill to see if the prospects would be realized in turning Jamaica into an oil-producing nation. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.